Okay, this is a kickstand hinge. We're working to get movement from the hips while keeping the knee nice and still. So if I take my right foot behind me, I'm going to keep this back foot as just a kickstand. So I don't really have any weight on this foot, and I'm keeping all of my center of mass right over the top of my left foot. So I'm going to think of being heavy here on the inner heel, the big toe joint and the little toe joint. So I've got a bit of a tripod, but I really want to think inner heel, nice and heavy. And my knee is going to stay right over the top of my midfoot. So if I was wearing shoes, I would think right over the top of my shoelaces. So from the side, I've just got a bit of a knee bend. I'm not all the way out here, just enough to go over the top of my foot, so that when I go down into my hinge, this knee is going to stay still. So I'm going to be shifting the hips back in space, keeping my center of mass still forward over this front foot. And as I reach down towards my pinky toe on my left foot, I'm really having to sit into the hips. I'm dropping my right knee down towards the floor. So I'm getting this bit of rotation down, and I'm reaching down to my left pinky, and I'm feeling lots and lots of length on my left glute. So I'm only going to reach to about mid-shin, because if I go too far, I start to go into my back. So once I reach that end range, I feel lots of tension on my glute. Then I'm just going to practice pushing the floor away and coming back up to standing, pushing my hip forward without moving my knee. So from the side, that looks like knee steady, foot heavy on the floor, inner heel nice and heavy on the floor, center of mass right over my front foot, and I'm shifting the hips back, keeping them going straight back so I'm not going out to the side. I'm reaching down towards my pinky toe, and I'm letting my right knee drop down towards the floor, and my knee is steady. And then when I push the floor away, my knee doesn't really move, it's just my hip straightening. And then when I get to the top as well, I don't want to go like this. So I'm not shoving my hips forward. I'm just going to this very open position, lots of length, to this closed position, just standing up straight. So I'm not trying to overly squeeze my glutes at the top. So inhale as I come down, and then exhale, push the floor away, straighten through that hip, and come back all the way to standing. So just from the front again, just to make sure the hips are not going out to the side or hiking. We can keep the fingers here on the hips, so they're pushing straight back, almost like pushing my hip back. Or I can take one hand here and one hand on my glute and push that hip back. Maintaining this square position here. So it's okay if this hip drops down, this right side. I just don't want to be going out like this. So I'm dropping down, reaching for that pinky toe, keeping my weight forward over that front foot, and then pushing the floor away to come back to my starting position. So a couple of things to remember when you are doing your kickstand hinge. A really important part is this relationship here between the hips and the rib cage. You want to make sure that you're not ending up in this really forward, open scissored position. So that means my rib cage is doing the hinge for me. I'm getting it all from here. And then I'm pushing my butt back, but it's all going into my low back. So I want to make sure that I've got that good stacked position first. So I'm going to, if I'm going on my right side, I'm going to take a big inhale and exhale those ribs down, keeping this nice strong connection between my rib cage and my pelvis. And then when I sit back into my hinge, I'm not going to lose that. So I'm going to keep that tension, reaching down, letting that left knee drop down a little bit, heavy on the inner heel, and then exhale, push back up to standing without making that movement come from the rib cage. So they're the main things to remember when you're doing a kickstand hinge. From the foot, inner heel, big toe joint nice and heavy. The knee stays soft and pretty much stays completely still throughout the movement. And then the hip is the part that's doing the most work. And that's where you get the most movement when you're doing your kickstand hinge, all coming from the hip, shifting back in space, not out to the side. Then up to the rib cage, keeping those ribs coming back towards the spine. Core stays on so that it's not going into your back. So you can do 5 to 10 each side, keep building up and then start adding some weight. So if I was going to use a weight, take it in my opposite hand and I'm doing all of those same things. I'm letting that weight pull me down now, shifting back into that hip, keeping my weight over this front foot, push the floor away to come back up. So I'm straightening through the hip, the knee stays steady still.